Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we're here to talk about 9 signs you're not an ISTP. And so the first sign is you naturally go with other people first before finding a solution yourself.
Yeah, I guess ISTPs are known to be some kind of tinkerers. So they probably want to try it out first because this also gives them some kind of excitement. And also, if I would go first to someone else, first it would take some energy of me because I need to initiate. But I'm more on the responsive side. People are more coming to me, and then I'm giving them the solution they would need. But on the other hand, if I go to others, I mean, it somehow takes the excitement to figure it out yourself. That's for me really the main point here.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem going to people eventually, but I'm going to do my due diligence and try and figure it out as far as I can before I have to go to somebody else. I try and prolong that as much as possible before going to somebody for help.
Sometimes I take like 4 hours just to figure it out myself, and then maybe I'm starting to go someone else. So yeah, for me, for sure, it's a difference.
And so the next sign is you're someone who is overly scheduled.
I have attempted to keep a little bit of a schedule. Like I plan out my day and my week a little bit, but honestly, I find I never really stick to that. Something else comes up or plans have to move around, and that's a little bit more comfortable than being super scheduled every hour of my day.
Yeah, I also take it as it goes. Whatever comes up, I do that. I mean, I have a rough direction what I will do on that day, but will what happen in eventually. Spontaneously, my plans might change. Then maybe I'm in for some ice cream, so I'm getting some ice cream, and then I noticed, oh, time is lost again, and now I didn't do what I actually wanted to do. Yeah, stuff happens. Yeah, I mean, schedules are also quite restricting. So I one time at my work, I had, I think that guy was an ENTJ. He scheduled, put lots of meetings in my calendar, and it's really, wow, no, 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 no. He will notice quite quickly that I don't like that at all. Especially, yeah, I mean, he was for sure a talk learner. I wanted to talk through strings, but I just want to think about them first. So there was quite a difference there. So quite spontaneous.
Yeah, it seems like you guys can have a plan, but you can throw it out easily and adapt and improvise if there's something better that comes along the way. And sometimes you can completely veer off of it. It seems like you go with the flow with how the day unfolds. All right. And the next sign is you're good at doing what you're told.
I don't want to say that I, do the opposite of what I'm told all the time, but I have a really hard time with just say point blank instructions. Like I need to ask questions like, why are we doing it this way? What about this? What about that? And it goes back kind of that first point. Like I have to think it through myself. I can't easily just follow an instruction without me getting to put my own thought into it as well.
Yeah, it's also a bit about clarifying. I mean, often it's other people, they're not thinking stuff through that strongly. And then you just want to confirm, okay, is this what they're telling me actually the best way to go forward? Or do I need to improve it a bit more? And the likelihood that the people who are putting the schedule or the tasks on your list, they probably didn't have the time to think them through. So you still need to think it through and understand in the end, okay, what do we actually need to do, or what needs to be done to, in the end, also improve the quality. I mean, yes, quantity, there's a lot, but introverted thinking is quite quality oriented. So there's this difference.
Yeah. So you need to verify for yourself if it makes sense before doing it. And the next tell that you're not an ISTP is you're afraid to get your hands dirty or getting tangible with whatever you're working on.
Having extroverted sensing as our perceiving function, I learn best with just getting my hands on whatever it is I'm trying to figure out. Like, the theory goes so far and the understanding, like the mental understanding takes you so far, but I feel like I can't really lock in what I'm trying to figure out until I can actually, get my hands on it or experience it directly.
Yeah, it's really the hands-on. I'm just thinking I had a really a strange example just now. For example, for dating or something in a dating app. I mean, the dating app, okay, I see all these pictures, 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 but still, I mean, what I'm supposed to do with these pictures, I would never fall in love with these pictures. I would need to get to person in person first to get my hands dirty, just to figure out if this will be a fit or not.
Yeah, you need to experience it for yourself. Got it. And so another point that you may not be an ISTP is you're easily swayed by other people.
Yeah, I mean, some people say that ISTPs are quite stubborn, but I don't think they actually are. It's just that one, I think, at least I feel that one of their core needs is really to have this independence, this autonomy, to be self-determined in what they're doing. And yeah, in that sense, they need to decide for themselves, what do they actually want to do? And if the other people are saying something, I first will think it's true, but if it doesn't fit or I don't see the point in what they're saying, yeah, I will just go my own way. So it's quite hard to convince them of something else if this is not something yeah, they're interested in or want to do. If someone else is saying you, hey, please do that or that, if they don't see the point, if they don't have, usually, yeah, if it doesn't make sense or not a lot of sense, then they won't do it.
I don't know if I have much to add on to that one. Like, it's kind of like you said, like, well, maybe I'll take in information from other people, but it is going to take a lot to truly change my mind. It goes back to that first point of like, we tend to come to the conclusion ourselves ahead of time. And sure, well, maybe other people will have some opinions, but I'm not very easily swayed by that. Like, got a pretty high standard of like what makes enough sense to really change my mind once it's set on something.
Makes sense. And another non-ISTP characteristic is you care about what other people think.
Yeah, that perfectly fits on the point we just had. So we are not getting influenced by opinions that much. So they can have them, that's fine. But if these don't make sense, no, we are not getting swayed by it. And I think also this thinking stuff is also a little, I mean, if you care about what others think, this also translates in some kind of a status orientation. And yeah, if I see people doing just stuff because they want to show their status, I'm always confused. Why do they waste their time on that stuff? Because they could be, yeah. I personally, I wouldn't get the point on why they do that. Yeah, I think seems to be really just okay, not being swayed by these opinions. Okay, we are can be swayed by the emotions of others, but not on what they're thinking in a logical sense.
Yeah, like you said, it just goes back to the other point of, don't care what they think in the sense of, it's not really going to change my opinion. But yeah, that status thing as well, like, don't necessarily care what other people think in regards to myself. Like, it doesn't affect my identity as a person or what I'm going to do or what choices I'm going to make with my life. Yeah, I see it tying into identity in that sense as well. Like, people can think whatever they want about me. That doesn't change what I've already decided I'm going to do.
Yeah, I like the identity point because if you have a strong identity, I mean, it's more or less fixed. And if it's strong, it can't be swayed that easily. So identity thing is for sure a really nice point there.
And the next tell is you're naturally comfortable with your emotions or are very emotional.
I think that point pretty much explains itself. I am not somebody who has emotions. I've jokingly referred myself as a robot for most of my life. That is a whole gray area in terms of understanding. Yeah, I think anybody who's naturally comfortable with that, I think that's a pretty clear sign that you're probably not an ISTP.
Yeah, I think from that perspective, it's also quite interesting. In the past, when I wasn't at my best, I also felt a little zombie-like. I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but there was this one point where I really just didn't feel well, like a zombie, just being in front of my computer. And even my body was telling me I didn't want to be at that place anymore. So what I mean, there was a lot of stuff, other stuff ongoing, But what at that point decided I didn't want to be a zombie anymore. So I started to check on these emotional stuff. I mean, just as we go into psychological type and so on, just to figure out the connection piece. And even I see it even now when I also joined some Toastmaster clubs which do public speaking. And there I notice when I'm on the stage, I'm trying to actively put more emotions into it, which is quite interesting from a growth perspective, just to see on how you can develop. But what I also sometimes get as feedback, it seems sometimes it doesn't seem that authentic when I do that. So I'm not sure if I should still go back to being the normal ISTPs I am, or just still trying to put some emotions into it. I'm not sure, but as Joe one time said before, sometimes emotions, they feel like the flu. But yeah, it's always the emotions I feel, the feelings I have, they're always feeling separate from myself, or at least I'm more in some kind of observer mode. And there the feeling happens, okay, I somehow observe the feeling, but it's not really my feeling in that sense. Even if it's really strong, even when I really go deep into emotions, even, one time I was quite deep in some emotions because I did some special exercise in some Gestalt therapeutic, not because I was in therapy, but just because I wanted to try something. And I also went deep into emotions, got into the crying mode, but still it didn't feel like it was my emotion. My body was telling me yes, it somehow was, but I still didn't feel it was. So there is still a difference. I mean, ICPs are still thinkers overall. Yes, they feel emotions, but it's just on a different level, and for sure not that strongly felt as FI people.
Exactly. High TI users often talk about being an observer of their emotions, almost like they experience their feelings in third person, or whenever they're doing something, they have to actively infuse emotion. And so the next indicator is you've never been called critical.
I mean, I feel like that is probably a pretty common occurrence for TI users. I mean, this happened again to me just yesterday. Um, if we're not careful, our TI can definitely come off as very critical and very nitpicky. And, if we're not careful with it, it's just definitely something that you learn rubs people the wrong way. And I think that is probably something every TI user goes through at some point is why are you so critical? Like, why don't you like this? Can you disagree with me at some point?
Yeah, this being critical, for me, it's not really being critical, but yeah, people still tell you're critical. For me, it's just observing what's happening there right now. I just analyze, okay, why did this come this way? What were the reasons why this happened? This is more or less the thinking you're doing that. Or also, it's more meant to improve. I mean, if you're not getting actual feedback, you will never be able to improve, get better. And I think ISTPs, they always want to get better at what they're doing. And maybe that's some kind of projections on other people that they also should get better. So we give them just the feedback. For us, just an observation. And if they take it or not, that's in the end up to them. We are not saying they have to do it. That's their decision in the end. Same as we would expect from other people.
Yeah, I think that improvement in feedback is a big one too. Like that's how I see, my TI coming in to help is like, well, if you think about this point and this point and this point, you can make it even better. And it just kind of comes off as criticism when that's not the intention.
The bane of a thinker's life. And so the last sign is you're uncomfortable with silence. And so I'm writing a book with Joe and Ron on ISTPs, and they have the longest silences ever in between when we talk and when we're writing. And it's so different with different co-authors. When I'm just sitting with ISTPs, they're the most comfortable with that silence. I don't know if they're aware that they're comfortable. It just is. You'll just notice that if you're with an ISTP, they don't mind the awkward silence. It's not awkward to them.
Not a silence, it's a thinking period. Nothing else. Or it might also be just the extroverted sensing. We are just in the moment and just keep just how to call it, being in the moment in the end, just being there. Nothing happens. We are just in the moment.
I wanted to point out that while you were about the 10 minutes you were getting ready for this video, I don't think Ron and I exchanged a single word. It's just 10, 15 minutes of silence getting ready to film this video. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. It's like you said, I don't know if we're thinking about it as being comfortable or uncomfortable. It's just kind of that's just the way it is. It's the time for science. It's the time for thinking. It's just the way the moment's going right now.
So yeah, with ISTPs, you'll have a lot of silence. So if you're into meditation or something that requires a lot of focus, you'll love being surrounded by ISTPs because it'll be a ball. And so thank you for the wonderful, on-point, succinct answers you both had that got to the NI essence of what we were trying to say in very few words as possible. And so I hope you guys found this entertaining, and I'll see you all in the next video.